Why isn't God more obvious? I actually think that's one of the most deeply felt questions that we face. All of us have been in a moment where we sought God, whether it's seeking him to know if he's there at all, if he exists, or seeking him for a really personal question, seeking him for an answer, seeking him for discernment. And when we don't hear anything, when we instead are stuck with our own silence, that is a very tangible moment of frustration and often of pain. A lot of damage has been done in light of people feeling that God is not there. So what's that about? Wouldn't we expect a loving God who is committed to his creation, who claims, as Christianity promotes often, that he wants relationship? Wouldn't he make himself a little more obvious? Or wouldn't he even make himself completely obvious so that he leaves no room for doubt at all? What I want to suggest today is that there is no answer quite satisfying for those moments of crisis. All of us have felt it, and I have struggled with it personally. But there is something I want to suggest. Just because we as mere human beings can't think of a reason good enough for us as to why God wouldn't make himself perfectly obvious without a shadow of a doubt doesn't mean there isn't one. Just because we can't think of a reason that satisfies us doesn't mean there isn't one. We are talking about the God of the universe and not our own projection. So what could a reason be that God doesn't provide more obvious evidence that he is there, that he is real, that he is listening? I think one is that I think that the goal that he has for humanity, his ultimate goal for creation, is going to match up with the way he chooses to engage with us. The ultimate goal of God for creation is going to match up with the way he chooses to engage with us. So what do I mean? I have a friend and a colleague who, before she actually got married, her now husband met her in Italy and began to got to know her. And as she was writing a book in cafe shops around Italy, he began to, knowing that her favorite flower was a Gerber daisy, he began to place Gerber daisies in every cafe where she would work. I'm sure he missed a few here and there, but it was a theme. And even when she went back to the States months later, a Gerber daisy would show up on her table, and she couldn't understand it. But all she knew was that someone knew her, someone cared for her, someone was clearly trying to send a message of a longing for relationship, but she didn't know much more than that. It was such a subtle thing. And yet, over the months, she found herself longing to know who this person was, getting more and more evidence, more and more signs. Ultimately, obviously, they ended up married. But what does this have to say about the God who sometimes seems to hide from us and comes in ways that are more subtle than we would wish? I think one thing it says is that his ultimate goal is not for us to just have intellectual assent that he exists. Not just to say, of course he could show up to every one of us daily and say, I'm real, I'm still real, I'm still real. And we would all have to believe. But that is not his ultimate goal. His ultimate goal is to be known and to know you deeply, intimately, personally. So a personal God will not come with just simply propositions or facts or signs or proofs. He comes in a way that brings forth relationship, that causes you to have to seek after him. And we know from Jeremiah that it says that those who seek God will find him. But does it end there? No. It says those who seek God will find him if they seek him with their whole heart. So my question for you is, when we approach the question of why isn't God more obvious, do we actually want to know the God who is real, who wants relationship, who we belong to? Or are we playing some type of a game saying that God is some kind of a puppet that we can manipulate, or somebody that we can cause to react in whatever ways we please and we see fit? What God cares about is hearts of honesty and sincerity. If you seek God, where the evidence very much points, if you seek him in honesty and sincerity, he promises that he will reveal himself to you. He says, I will manifest myself to those who love me. He's looking not for what you believe primarily, but for who you love. So think about this as you approach this question, and know that whether or not your feelings match the truth that God is real, that he is present, and that he is involved, that simply is the matter of fact. Our feelings do not always point to truth. They're important, but there's a truth beyond them that can fortify you on the days where he doesn't seem to be active. So those are a few thoughts I want to give you on the why God isn't more obvious. The evidence for God, as we've mentioned, is great. And Blaise Pascal is a French mathematician who will tell you that there is enough light, there is enough proof to cause anyone to have reasonable reason to believe. But there's also enough darkness and obscurity to not force those who don't want to believe. And that is what I want to say about why God is not more obvious. If you want to talk more, please find me later. Thank you.